give your marriage the very best chance to not just survive the crisis, but to eventually emerge healthier, even better, right? And closer than it was before. So, we will unpack what we call the trust panic cycle. The trust panic cycle. We're going to unpack that here today. All right. And also, I'm also going to share 4 different mistakes with you, right? So the panic cycle goes like this. Let me show you. All right. It's triggered by panic. So you cheated, okay, and you're trying to save your marriage, right? So this is actually triggered by panic. So you start panicking, right? When you start panicking, what happens? You start proving, okay? Now, common sense will tell you have to prove to them that you're changing and you're ready and you're sorry, even though there's defensiveness that kind of sneak into that, right? Now, from proving, like I said, you're pleading, you're begging, right? Not only are you pleading and begging, you're also monitoring to see if they change. All right. So you're proving, you're pleading, right? And now we're begging. Sorry, monitoring, because pleading and begging is essentially the same thing. You're monitoring, right? This is what you're spending your energy on. Monitoring. Let me put this over here. Let's put this here. Let's go like this. There you go. Monitoring. Not cool. Not a good place to find yourself. If you're doing this, you already know how it feels. You know the kind of result you're generating. It's not what you're looking for, right? And now that you're monitoring, you're creating pressure, and that pressure is causing withdrawal. Let me put that on the board for you so you can see. Pressure, and that's creating withdrawal. It's getting worse and worse, right? It's getting worse and worse, and that withdrawal does what? It makes you panic even more. Let's put that here, withdrawal, right? And that withdrawal does what? It makes you panic even more. You're creating the cycle all over again, except that you're damaging trust even more. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. All right. Now, after cheating, you want the pain gone immediately. You want your husband or your wife to believe you, right? Whoever you cheated on. You want them to forgive you. You want them to trust you again and tell you that the marriage still has a chance. You want them to do it like right now. You actually attempt to manipulate them into forgiveness. No, it's not your intention, but that's essentially what you're doing, right? Because you get defensive, you go back and forth, you apologize, you're defensive, right? So you explain harder, you promise harder, you ask more questions, you offer counseling, and of course they tell you no, go to hell, right? You watch every reaction. This is what I went through. Okay, they were text messages, they were emotional affairs. So I was trying to prove that nothing actually happened, but of course, now I will have to explain, right, and complain at the same time. So now you watch every reaction. You keep checking whether divorce is still on the table, because my own wife she asked for divorce, okay, and it feels like repair, because you're doing so much. You're trying to fix it, right? You're being intentional, probably for the first time in your life, right? But it's like pulling teeth, right? So, but when panic is driving all of it, your attempt to save the marriage becomes another experience of pressure. And that's what I want to explain to you here today. That's what I wanted to unpack. So let's go ahead and unpack this crazy cycle, right? So it's triggered, like I said, it's triggered by panic, right? Like I told you, some of the strongest marriages that you admire today, they've gone through this phase, okay? They navigated at least 15 to 20%, right? Now, the number jumped to 60 to 80% when they actually have a path, a recovery path, which, another word, fancy word for intentional, like actually doing the work, right? But 15 to 20% is far from 100%, right? There's another number here that I want to share with you. There's another 60 to 80% that they stay together, even though eventually they end up bafuka because they didn't really do the work, right? So many people have gone through betrayal, but they kind of stay together. Most people will stay together. Most people are not leaving just because of. So other things have to align, like because trust is broken, but they never really do the necessary work. So they end up in the ditch, right? Anyway, it's triggered by panic. The fear is exposed. Text messages is found, right? And and then you got caught. So you panic because you're trying to save your marriage. Now your wife goes cold on you, right? They talk about separation or divorce, and every time they do that, your mind jumps straight to catastrophic, right? It makes you feel like you need to fix this right now, which is why you probably attempt to manipulate them into forgiveness, because after all, you've begged them. You've begged somebody to come and talk to them. You talk to the pastor to talk to them. You talk to the family members to talk to them, right? So your mind keeps saying you have to fix this right now before you lose your marriage, right? That's what panic is telling you. Panic is telling you that you need to do this with speed, right? It tells you that speed is the answer, because if you wait just another day, the marriage might be over. Well, I got news for you, okay? And I learned this the hard way. The marriage is actually over, okay? It's the one reason. It's the one thing that creates grounds for divorce, okay? They actually have the right. Like, this one thing gives them the right to dump your ass and leave you. But again, I gave you the good news already, right? It's just a matter of full ownership, and then becoming a safe partner, right? Because they're just as afraid as you are, right? They're scared shitless too, just like you. So, but of course you don't know that. At this point, they have the upper hand, right? At least that's what you've been reading, even though that's so far from the truth, right? So panic tells you that silence is dangerous, so you keep talking and talking. It tells you that if you can just say the perfect thing tonight, they will stay with you. You're right. You can stop the consequences right now, right? The consequences of your cheating ass. So again, I'm talking about my story, right? So when Lola discovered my emotional affair, right? She described in the book, you can see it in the book, she described being emotionally devastated, right? She had panic attacks. She cried herself to sleep and reached the point where she did not want to deal with the marriage anymore. Now, you being on the other hand, you're probably completely disconnected from what that really looks like. That's just a reality, right? You don't know what the pain is until you end up on the receiving end of it, right? So, bottom line is I was facing the consequences of damage, the damage that I had created. And that damage was building for the resentment was there for so long too. It's not something that happened and then I got caught. Like it didn't all happen the same day, right? It happened over, like she saw some stuff and then the impact of it did not show up until years later. So I had to work on myself until I fully understood the seriousness of it, right? In fact, the person we work with at some point, once she heard it, she's passed on now. Once she heard it that's what happened, she was like, "Oh no, she's dumping you. It's over." I was like, "Wait, you're supposed to help me hold her accountable so she can stay in the marriage that she bargained for, that she committed to." Anyway, so I want to share with you the number one mistake that you are probably already making, right? And that mistake, right, is trying to talk someone into trusting you, right? We call that proving. Okay, trying to talk someone into trusting you. There's no oxymoron greater than that ever. It's not gonna happen. All right. No, there's no amount of communication. Just talk about it. No, the more you talk, the worse it gets. Okay. So proving. Okay. The number one mistake. Let me put that here right now. Let's put that here. Trying to talk or use talk to create to create trust. Let's call it that way so I can have space. There you go. Trying to use talk to create, The average human being think talking means communication. So if you're like that, it's not your fault. Okay, a lot of people do think that. Hello, Basiphone for Brin El Arlino. Hello. Anyway, so that's the mistake number one, proving. What do I mean by proving, right? You, of course, the end goal as far as you're concerned right now is to get trust back into the relationship, and somehow common sense is telling you you can snap your finger and talk your way into it. Well, it's intuitive, right? You're not thinking, right? You're not being intentional. So you start presenting your case, right? I ended it. You ended the affair. You're no longer talking to the person. You blocked them, right? You learned your lesson. I learned my lesson. I swear it will never happen again, right? Look at everything. You open your phone, just see everything. Oh, by the way, you deleted some messages. Stop lying. You delete. Well, anyway, so I see everything, right? Somebody said, no, just be fully transparent, right? And then the problem is solved. That's not necessarily true either, right? But anyway, you're trying to use your words today, right now, to erase yesterday's experience or the betrayer, right?